She told me to cancel the wedding because she found someone better. But I was already 3 steps ahead by the time she realized her secret savings, her affair, and even her reputation were gone forever. I am 29, sitting alone in an empty apartment, surrounded by packed boxes and a silence that feels almost too loud to bear. My lease ends tomorrow, and the blank walls around me seem to whisper a story that demands to be told. Just 6 hours ago, my fiancée, Natalie, 27, sat me down with an expression that was too calm, too calculated, too final. She wore the dress I bought for her birthday, her hair styled as though she were heading somewhere elegant, somewhere important. That should have been my first warning. But I had known, long before tonight, exactly what was coming. Natalie's words were delivered with a coldness I will never forget. We need to cancel the wedding. I found someone better. It was not a request, not even a conversation. It was a statement, a judgment handed down as if I were the one who needed to accept my fate. But what she didn't expect was my reply. I looked her squarely in the eye and said calmly, "Already done." The shock that flashed across her face was almost comical. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide. What? What do you mean, already done? I leaned back, letting the words sink in. I canceled everything last week. Venue, catering, photographer, all taken care of. Got most of the deposits back too. Her expression, a perfect mix of confusion, anger, and fear, was everything I had been waiting for. You see, I had been preparing for this exact moment for 3 long months. 3 months of knowing the truth, of playing along while she thought she was fooling me. 3 months of strategizing while she was sneaking around, believing she held all the power. Natalie stammered, trying to regain her balance. You? How did you even? Why would you? I cut her off, my voice steady. Natalie, you've been staying out until 3 in the morning for months. You changed your phone password. You hide your screen when you text. I'm not stupid. Her face hardened. She tried to recover with a shrug. Well, good. Makes this easier. I'll just pack my things then. I pointed casually toward the garage. Your things are already packed. 3 boxes. Labeled. The way her jaw dropped nearly made me laugh. What Natalie never knew was that I found out about Garrett, 31, her coworker, 3 months ago. And no, I didn't snooping or hire a private investigator. She left her iPad logged into her messages on the kitchen counter, like a gift from the universe. What I saw was enough to shatter the illusion and prove what I had suspected for weeks. But instead of confronting her immediately, I decided to be patient. Strategic. The first step was consulting a lawyer. We weren't married yet, but we had lived together for 2 years, and I needed to know exactly where I stood legally. What were her rights? My rights? What could she claim and what could I protect? The knowledge I gained was empowering, and it shaped every decision I made after that day. See, Natalie and I had been saving for a wedding and a future home. She insisted on separate savings accounts instead of a joint one, a red flag I foolishly ignored at the time. The plan was to combine them after the wedding. But Natalie had a secret. Another account, a hidden fund she believed I knew nothing about. The irony? Months ago she had asked me to help her set up online banking. I saw her password pattern. I never touched it until 3 months ago, and what I found made my blood run cold. She had been quietly skimming from our wedding fund, about $200 each month, and redirecting it into her secret account. By the time I looked, it held about $4,800. But the kicker? That account was still legally connected to an old checking account her father, Theodore, had co-signed back in college. And Theodore despises cheaters with every fiber of his being. His first wife destroyed his life by cheating, and he had spent years rebuilding. Theodore, who had become a father figure to me over time. Theodore, who I casually had lunch with last month. Hinting that Natalie had been acting distant. Natalie tried to assert herself, her voice sharp. I'm taking my money from the wedding account. All of it. I smiled and pulled out my phone, showing her the banking app. Already done. Your $3,600 contribution was transferred back to your account this morning. Her face went pale. What about the rest? I tilted my head. What rest? That's exactly what you put in. I have the records. Panic flickered in her eyes. She had been telling me she was contributing $500 each month, but only depositing $300. She thought she was building a comfortable safety net, nearly $10,000 between both accounts. In reality, she had around $8,400 total. This isn't right. I saved more than that. No, I corrected calmly. You told me you saved more. Big difference. The argument shifted. She tried to deflect. Tried to use Garrett's name as a trump card. Fine, whatever. Garrett makes 3 times what you do anyway. Finally, she said his name out loud. Garrett, the marketing director who had been promising her the world, wooing her with company expense account dinners, buying her jewelry she had to hide from me, whispering that she was upgrading. Good for Garrett, I said casually. Hope he's okay with your spending habits. What's that supposed to mean? She snapped. Nothing. Just interesting that you spent $400 on a purse last week while telling me we needed to cut back on wedding expenses. Her fingers trembled as she grabbed her phone, likely to text Garrett. But before she could, I added one last blow. Oh, and about your secret savings account? Might want to check that. The color drained from her face. How do you? I smirked. Natalie, you used your birthday as the password after changing it from your dog's name. You're not exactly a criminal mastermind. She opened the banking app with shaking hands, her expression morphing into horror as she saw the balance. What did you do? Me? Nothing. Your dad, however, noticed unusual activity on an account he still co-owns. He moved the money into a term deposit. You should call him. The next 20 minutes were absolute chaos. She screamed at her father over the phone, accusing him of theft. I could hear Theodore's calm voice replying, Natalie, that money was for your wedding, not your affair. It will stay locked until you marry someone who isn't already married. Yes, that's when she learned the truth. Garrett was married, with 2 children. The shock on her face as she hung up the call was priceless. For months she had believed she was trading up, walking away from me into a world of glamour and security. Instead, she was nothing more than a side project to a married man. And that, my friend, was just the beginning. The next few hours felt like a strange mix of chaos and calm, with Natalie spiraling while I sat back and watched the web of lies collapse around her. After the call with her father, she slammed her phone on the table, eyes burning with rage, and hissed at me. You're vindictive. You've ruined everything. But I couldn't help but laugh quietly under my breath. No, Natalie, I said slowly. You ruined everything. I just refused to let you drag me down with you. She stormed around the apartment, pacing like a caged animal, dialing Garrett over and over. The 4th time he picked up, his tone was sharp, annoyed, and laced with panic. Nat, I told you not to call me here. I can't talk right now. Garrett, I left Ryan. I did what we said we would. You need to come pick me up. There was silence, and then his voice, flat and cold. We didn't plan anything. Jesus. Natalie, I told you this was just fun. You can't leave my family. Don't call me again. The line went dead. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched her shoulders slump as the reality hit. No fiancé, no affair partner, no secret savings. No apartment to fall back on either, because the lease was in my name alone. She tried calling friends next. One by one, they rejected her. Excuses poured in, too busy, too tired, didn't want to get involved in her drama. Even her own sister told her she needed to figure her life out before dragging anyone else into it. Finally, defeated, she ordered an Uber to her mother's house, dragging the 3 boxes I had packed for her toward the door. At the threshold, she turned back and spat. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. I met her eyes and said softly, No, Natalie, I'm just not letting you destroy me. The Uber pulled away, and with that, she was gone. I slept lightly that night, the apartment empty except for my packed belongings. The next morning, I signed off on the walkthrough, handed over the keys, and drove away from the life I thought I was building with her. Ahead of me was a new city, a new job, a fresh start. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Within days of settling into a temporary hotel in my new city, the emails began. 19 messages overnight from Natalie, each one more desperate than the last. They started with anger. Accusations that I was a monster, a sociopath who had planned her downfall. Then they shifted to bargaining. Pleas for another chance. Promises that we could work through this together. And finally, they devolved into threats. Promising to ruin my reputation, to contact my new employer, to tell them what kind of person I really was. The irony? I hadn't even started my new job yet. They had headhunted me personally, and no bitter ex-fiancé was going to change that. The best part of those first emails wasn't even Natalie's pathetic begging. It was the text I received from Theodore, her father. Ryan, just thought you should know Natalie tried to access that term deposit again. Bank flagged it as fraud. She's also telling people you manipulated me. The irony, isn't it? My daughter who lied and cheated is claiming manipulation. Don't worry, the money stays locked. Attached was a screenshot of Natalie's message to him. Dad, you have to give me my money. Ryan poisoned you against me. Garrett was just a friend. Nothing happened. I need that money for a new apartment. This is financial abuse. Theodore's response? Brutal and perfect. The only abuse I see is you abusing the trust of everyone around you. The money will stay where it is. That was just the beginning of her downfall. Over the following weeks, the dominoes fell one by one. First, she tried hiring a lawyer. She wanted to sue me for emotional damages, for half the venue refund, for the stolen secret savings, even for lost wages from moving back with her mother. The lawyer meeting lasted a single consultation before they likely told her she had no case. Theodore confirmed it when he texted me. She asked me to pay for a lawyer to sue you. I told her to use her own money. She hung up on me. Then, she tried to spin the narrative with mutual friends. She called around, telling people I had financially abused her and trapped her into cheating. But her best friend Jess called me directly. Ryan, did Natalie seriously tell people you forced her to cheat with Garrett? Because 3 months ago, she told me she was going to marry you for the gifts and then leave you for him anyway. Jess's honesty only confirmed what I already knew. Natalie had been laying the groundwork for a long con, and it backfired gloriously. Next, she tried to pressure Garrett. She showed up at his office, called his work phone, demanded he take responsibility for her situation. Security escorted her out twice. Garrett, cornered and desperate to save his marriage and career, threw her under the bus entirely. He claimed she had pursued him, misread signals, and refused to leave him alone. Lies, of course, but his wife wanted to believe it. Soon Natalie was receiving cease and desist letters from his divorce lawyer and HR warnings from his company. Her emails to me shifted again. Look what you've done. Garrett's wife wants a restraining order against me. This is your fault. I almost laughed out loud reading that one. And then came the most absurd stunt yet. My former apartment manager, Rosa, called me one afternoon. Mr. Ryan, I'm sorry to bother you, but Natalie is here demanding we let her into your old unit. She claims you hid her grandmother's ring inside. I nearly dropped my phone laughing. Rosa, both of her grandmothers passed away before she was born. There is no ring. Please don't let her in. Minutes later, Rosa texted me again. Police came. She left. Very angry. Sorry for the trouble. I found out later through Jess that Natalie had invented the grandmother's ring to try and get into my old apartment to snoop for anything I might have forgotten. She was so desperate. She created a fake heirloom and told people I had stolen it. Her father even confirmed she asked him to say the ring was worth $50,000 so she could file an insurance claim. He told her flatly that both grandmothers were buried with their rings, and that she was a liar. By then, I had settled into my new job, which turned out to be everything I hoped for. Better pay, a supportive team, and room to grow. Life was starting to feel good again. Meanwhile, Natalie was jobless, living with her mother, and banned from Garrett's workplace. But she still wasn't done. The grand finale came weeks later. Out of nowhere, Natalie stopped emailing. For a while, I thought maybe she had finally moved on. Then a friend from my old city called. Dude, did you know Natalie's been telling people you died? I thought he was joking. But no. She had posted black and white photos of us on social media, written long emotional paragraphs about losing her soulmate, and even set up a GoFundMe for funeral expenses. She raised over $3,000 from sympathetic strangers and old acquaintances. Her story, however, couldn't stay straight. Some posts said I died in a car accident. Others said it was a workplace incident. Some claimed I had died suddenly of illness. People started asking questions. Where was the obituary? Where was the funeral? Why weren't they invited? And then the perfect explosion. My former coworker commented publicly, "That's weird, because Ryan just endorsed me on LinkedIn yesterday." Her entire scheme collapsed in real time. People demanded refunds, accused her of fraud, and reported her GoFundMe. Even Theodore called me, laughing so hard he could barely speak. "Ryan, she asked me to confirm to the insurance company that you died, so she could claim a payout. She actually believed being your fiancé made her your beneficiary." The GoFundMe was shut down. She had to refund donations, and her reputation was absolutely destroyed. Her final desperate move was to build a website exposing me. MyTruthAboutRyan.com. She posted screenshots of innocuous texts, claimed I was controlling, posted photos of the boxes I packed for her as proof I threw her out. But the fatal error? She accidentally posted screenshots of her own messages to Garrett. Messages where she mocked me, lied about contributions to the wedding fund, and bragged about using me until she could upgrade. The website lasted 72 hours before she took it down. But by then, screenshots were everywhere. Even her own friends publicly called her out. Natalie was left completely alone. Friends cut ties. Garrett lost his job and half his assets in divorce. Her father donated her locked savings to charity. Her mother kicked her out after police came about the fraud claims. Last anyone heard, she was sleeping on sofas and working at a mall kiosk. Meanwhile, I thrived. New job, new apartment, a new relationship slowly blooming with someone honest, independent, and nothing like Natalie. The most important lesson I learned through all of this? Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's quietly making sure you're 3 steps ahead while your enemy destroys themselves. Natalie believed she could have it all. A devoted fiancé, a wealthy affair partner, a secret fund, and a drama-free escape. Instead, she ended up with nothing but the ruins of her own choices. And me? I got exactly what I wanted. Freedom, peace, and a future she could never touch. Like and subscribe for more stories of betrayal, revenge, and karma hitting exactly where it hurts.